The crystal chandeliers hanging from the ceiling of Hermitage cast a warm golden glow across the private dining room, making every polished wine glass sparkle like a diamond. Soft classical piano music floated gently through hidden speakers, while waiters in crisp white jackets moved silently between the tables. Everything about the evening screamed luxury. Everything except me. 12 members of my extended family were gathered around the long mahogany table to celebrate my younger sister Chloe's newest corporate promotion. Expensive bottles of Bordeaux had already been uncorked, laughter echoed across the room, and everyone seemed eager to toast the family's newest success story. I sat quietly near the center of the table in a simple navy blazer, black trousers, and a pair of modest leather flats. No designer jewelry, no luxury handbag, no flashy watch, just me. That was how I preferred it. For years, I had learned that the quieter I lived, the more peaceful my life became. Unfortunately, peace never lasted very long around my family. A waiter approached carrying the restaurant's signature entree, a massive sizzling platter of premium Japanese Wagyu steak covered with roasted garlic, grilled asparagus, butter-glazed mushrooms, and shaved black truffles. The rich aroma drifted across the table. Everyone smiled, conversations paused, even my Uncle Richard joked, "Now that's what success smells like." Laughter spread around the room. The waiter gently placed the platter in the center of the table before stepping back respectfully. I reached forward, picked up the serving tongs, and prepared to take one small slice. I never got the chance. A sharp slap landed across my wrist. The metal tongs clattered against the serving plate. "Don't touch that," my mother's voice sliced through the room. Every conversation stopped instantly. Lauren slowly picked up the heavy silver platter and deliberately slid it across the table until it stopped directly in front of Chloe. Then, without the slightest hint of embarrassment, she grabbed a small basket filled with dry dinner rolls and pushed it toward me. "This," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "is more your budget." A few relatives exchanged awkward smiles. Lauren continued, "That steak costs more than your grocery bill for an entire week." Another laugh escaped from somewhere near the end of the table. She leaned back in her chair, folded her arms, and smiled proudly. "It's for people who actually contribute to this family." Then she looked directly into my eyes. "Not freeloaders." Silence. Not one person spoke. Not one person defended me. Not even my aunt, who knew exactly how often I visited Mother every week. Across the table, Chloe rested her chin on one perfectly manicured hand while slowly swirling expensive red wine inside her crystal glass. A smug smile appeared on her face. "Mom's right," her voice sounded sweet, fake sweet. "You shouldn't feel embarrassed, Taylor," she shrugged dramatically. "Bread fills people up just as well." She paused just long enough for everyone to listen. "Poor people should really stop pretending they belong in expensive places." Several cousins laughed. Someone quietly whispered, "She's got a point." I simply looked down at the basket. 3 cold dinner rolls. That was apparently all I deserved. Oddly enough, I wasn't angry, not anymore. There comes a moment when humiliation stops hurting, when disappointment becomes so familiar that it almost feels ordinary. For me, that moment had arrived years ago. My family believed they knew exactly who I was. The older sister, quiet, forgettable, average, the woman living alone in a small apartment, driving an old hatchback, wearing clothes that never carried luxury labels. To them, I represented failure. Meanwhile, Chloe represented success. She drove a leased Mercedes, posted luxury vacations online, carried designer handbags, worked inside a downtown corporate office. Everything looked perfect. Social media loved her, relatives admired her, Mother worshipped her. But appearances can become the world's most convincing lies. None of the people sitting around this table knew what had really happened after my father's death 4 years earlier. They remembered the funeral, they remembered the flowers, they remembered the sympathy cards. What they never knew was what happened after everyone went home. I remembered opening Father's office safe. Instead of finding savings, I found fear. Folders, loan agreements, business debts, personal guarantees, collection notices, credit obligations. Page after page after page. Nearly everything father owned had been financed. His successful image had been built on borrowed money. When the accountants finally finished reviewing everything, the number nearly made me sick. The debt was large enough to destroy Mother's entire life. The Miami villa, gone, her retirement savings. Gone, everything. Mother cried herself to sleep every night for nearly 3 weeks. Chloe, she disappeared. Claimed she was too emotionally overwhelmed. She posted vacation pictures online while I sat across from lawyers trying to prevent foreclosure. That was the day I made a decision nobody understood. I resigned from my stable corporate position. Everyone assumed I had lost my job. Relatives whispered that I had become unemployed. Mother herself complained to neighbors that her oldest daughter couldn't even keep a career. I never corrected anyone. Instead, I locked myself inside my apartment. Almost every day followed the same routine. Wake up, study, practice, fail, learn, repeat. I spent thousands of hours studying cloud computing, automated e-commerce systems, financial analytics, server architecture, AI-assisted market forecasting, affiliate ecosystems, international digital licensing, and business automation. Most people thought I was wasting my life. I was quietly building a completely different one. For 12 months, I barely attended birthdays, skipped vacations, ignored parties, missed weddings. People assumed I had become antisocial. In reality, I was obsessed. Every failure taught me something. Every mistake improved the system. Every sleepless night pushed me one step closer. Then everything changed. One ordinary Tuesday morning, while drinking cheap coffee in my tiny apartment, my first fully automated international system generated more money in 24 hours than my old office job paid in an entire month. I stared at the computer screen for almost 10 minutes, certain it had to be a mistake. It was. Over the following months, the business grew. 1 automated system became 3. 3 became 8. 8 expanded across international markets. Income increased without requiring employees, office buildings, or daily meetings. Money continued arriving while I slept. While relatives laughed at my old car, my business quietly expanded across multiple countries. But the first thing I bought wasn't for myself, it was Mother's future. Without telling anyone, I contacted her bank. Through legal financial agreements, I became the primary guarantor protecting the mortgage on her oceanfront Miami villa. Every month, $3,200. Automatically transferred. Never late, never missed. When Chloe struggled to qualify for the luxury Mercedes she desperately wanted, guess who quietly signed the secondary financial guarantee? I did. When Mother's credit cards exceeded their limits, who paid them off? I did. Property taxes, insurance, unexpected repairs, medical bills, emergency expenses, quietly, without applause. Without recognition, without telling anyone, because I believed family helped family. I never expected gratitude. I simply hoped for respect. Instead, I became invisible. Mother convinced herself that Father's insurance policy was somehow covering everything. Chloe happily accepted expensive lifestyles she had never actually earned. Even worse, sometimes she hinted to relatives that she was secretly helping Mother financially. I heard those conversations. I said nothing, because exposing her felt petty, until tonight. Tonight, as I stared at the basket containing 3 stale dinner rolls, something inside me finally became perfectly clear. Silence had never protected my peace. It had only protected their lies. I slowly looked around the table. Every face told the same story. Judgment, superiority, mockery. Not one person believed I deserved that steak. Not one person wondered why Mother never seemed worried about expensive bills despite having no meaningful retirement income. Not one person asked who had actually been keeping everything afloat. Fine, if truth refused to introduce itself, maybe tonight, it was time I introduced it personally. Without saying a single word, I quietly slipped my right hand beneath the white tablecloth. Inside my blazer pocket rested my smartphone. I unlocked the screen, opened one familiar app, logged into the secure financial dashboard. There they were, every recurring payment, every guarantee. Every transfer, every sacrifice. Waiting, only one tap away. For a long moment, I simply stared at the glowing screen of my phone. Rows of scheduled payments filled the display. Each one represented a promise I had quietly kept for years. Each one represented another sacrifice no one had ever noticed. At the very top of the list was the mortgage payment for my mother's 6-bedroom oceanfront villa in Miami. Monthly payment, $3,200. Status, scheduled. Next transfer, 48 hours. Directly beneath it sat another familiar account. Luxury vehicle lease, Chloe Bennett. Monthly payment, $1,200. Primary financial guarantor, Taylor Bennett. Then came the utility bills. Electricity. Property insurance. Internet. Property taxes. Emergency credit protection. One after another, every comfortable part of their lives had quietly rested on my shoulders, not because anyone asked me to. Because I loved them. Because after Dad died, I truly believed family should protect each other. But somewhere along the way, protection had become expectation. Generosity had become entitlement. And kindness had become weakness. I slowly exhaled. No more. My thumb hovered over the first payment. Cancel scheduled transfer. A confirmation box appeared. Most people imagine revenge feels explosive. It doesn't. Real revenge is strangely quiet. It feels like closing a heavy door that should have been shut years ago. I pressed confirm. The mortgage payment disappeared. Immediately another option appeared. Remove primary financial guarantee. I didn't hesitate. Confirm. Done. Next, Chloe's Merced's lease. Cancel. Confirm. Remove guarantor. Confirmed. Credit protection account. Revoked. Luxury expense account. Closed. Secondary emergency funding. Disabled. Within less than 30 seconds, 3 years of silent financial support simply vanished. The banking system processed everything instantly. I slipped my phone back into my pocket. Across the table, conversation had already returned. Nobody noticed. Nobody except the banking servers. 5 seconds later, BZZZT, my mother's phone vibrated loudly against the polished wooden table. She smiled casually while reaching for it. I swear these banking apps send notifications for everything. She unlocked the screen. The smile disappeared, her eyes froze, she blinked once, twice. Then again, the color drained from her face so quickly that even Uncle Richard noticed. Lauren, he leaned forward. You all right? She didn't answer. Her fingers trembled. She refreshed the banking app. The notification remained, then another one arrived. Mortgage payment canceled. Primary guarantor removed. Financial coverage terminated. Another vibration. Another alert. Luxury vehicle lease protection revoked. Secondary credit line closed. Another. Emergency financial authorization expired. Mother suddenly gripped the edge of the table. Her breathing became uneven. What? She whispered. No, she refreshed the app again. Nothing changed. Her lips began shaking. This can't be right. Across from her, Chloe frowned. Mom, still no response. Mom, what's wrong? Lauren slowly lifted her head. Her frightened eyes searched the table until they landed on me. She stared. As if seeing me for the very first time. Taylor, her voice barely came out. She swallowed hard. Did you do this? The entire room fell silent. Forks stopped moving. Wine glasses paused halfway to people's mouths. Even the waiter walking past our room slowed down. I calmly placed my water glass on the table. Did I do what? My mortgage, she whispered. My payments, Chloe's lease, her breathing became faster. You canceled them. I looked directly into her eyes. Yes, one simple word, nothing more, nothing less. The room exploded with whispers. What? Canceled? What payments? I don't understand. Chloe laughed nervously. This has to be some mistake. She turned toward me. What is Mom talking about? I folded my hands calmly. There isn't any mistake, Chloe frowned. Explain. You've been driving a luxury Mercedes for almost 3 years. So, you've never made a single lease payment. Her smile disappeared. What? I made everyone. The room went completely still. No, Chloe laughed awkwardly. That's ridiculous. Is it? I reached into my purse and calmly placed several folded documents onto the table, copies. I had carried them for months. Not because I planned revenge, but because I had grown tired of pretending. The first page slid toward Uncle Richard. He adjusted his reading glasses. His eyes widened. This, he looked back at me. These are banking guarantees, I nodded. Read the signature. He did. Slowly his face changed. It's Taylor's. Another aunt reached for the next page. So is this one. Another uncle picked up the mortgage statement. Oh my God. Every payment. Every month, my name, my accounts, my authorization. 3 years, no one spoke. Finally, Mother broke the silence. You thought Dad's insurance was paying everything. I finished the sentence for her. She lowered her eyes. I never asked. No, you never did. Her shoulders slowly collapsed. Chloe suddenly pushed back her chair. This is insane. She pointed directly at me. You could have just told us. I smiled faintly. I tried. When? The dozens of times you interrupted me. The birthdays you skipped because you were shopping. The holidays you spent talking about yourself. The nights Mom called crying about. Money while you were posting vacation pictures. Chloe opened her mouth. Nothing came out, I continued. You never wanted answers. You wanted applause. Uncle Richard quietly removed his glasses. Lauren, he looked toward my mother. Is this true? Mother couldn't answer, because every document on the table answered for her. One by one, the relatives began passing the papers around. Mortgage statements, bank confirmations, tax receipts, lease agreements, insurance renewals, 3 years of proof. Every illusion inside the room shattered. One aunt covered her mouth. Another uncle slowly shook his head. I can't believe this. One cousin whispered, Taylor was paying for everything. Another replied, and they treated her like that. Nobody laughed anymore. Nobody looked at Chloe with admiration anymore. For the first time all evening, the room became painfully honest. Just then, the waiter approached carefully. Excuse me, his voice was gentle. Would anyone like dessert menus? Nobody answered. Instead, I smiled politely. Actually, I'd like to settle my portion of the evening. The waiter looked confused. Of course, ma'am. I reached into my wallet and removed a crisp $20 bill. I placed it on his serving tray. This covers my glass of water. I looked at the lonely basket beside me. And the bread, the waiter blinked. I'm sorry. My mother explained that bread was all I deserved tonight. No one dared say a word. So that's all I'll pay for. The waiter slowly nodded. I understand. Then I looked directly at Mother. You said the steak wasn't bought with my money. A long pause. So from tonight onward, I'm making sure that's true. I stood slowly. Picked up my handbag, smoothed the sleeves of my navy blazer, then looked around the entire table. I sincerely hope all of you enjoy the Wagyu steak. Another pause. Because from this moment forward, you'll all be paying for it yourselves. Without another word, I turned toward the door. Behind me, no one tried to stop me. No one knew how. But just as my hand reached the polished brass handle, a frightened voice echoed through the silent room. Taylor, it was my mother. Not angry, not proud, not commanding. For the first time in years, she sounded afraid, truly afraid. I stopped walking. Slowly turned my head. She was standing now. Her eyes were filled with panic, not because she had lost dinner. Not because relatives were staring, but because she had finally realized something far more terrifying. The daughter she had treated like a burden had been the very foundation beneath her entire life. And that foundation had just walked away. For several long seconds, no one moved. The private dining room, that had been filled with laughter only minutes earlier, now felt suffocatingly quiet. Even the soft piano music playing through the restaurant speakers seemed distant. I rested my hand on the door handle. Behind me, my mother's trembling voice broke the silence. Taylor, please. I didn't turn around. Please don't leave like this. Her voice cracked. We can talk, I smiled to myself. Talk. For years I had tried to talk. When Dad passed away, I tried. When the lawyers warned us about the debt, I tried. When I quietly started paying the mortgage, I waited for someone to ask where the money came from. No one ever did. Now that the money had disappeared, suddenly everyone wanted a conversation. I slowly looked over my shoulder. What exactly would you like to talk about, Mother? She swallowed hard. I didn't know. No, you didn't, but you never cared enough to find out. Tears began filling her eyes. "I never meant to hurt you." I held her gaze. "You didn't just hurt me. You erased me." The words landed like stones. Around the table, every relative remained completely silent. For the first time all evening, no one had anything clever to say. Just then, another waiter quietly approached carrying a leather bill folder. "Excuse me," he spoke carefully. "Whenever you're ready." He gently placed the folder beside my mother's plate before stepping away. No one reached for it. After nearly a minute, Chloe slowly opened it. Her face instantly turned white. $1,800, she whispered, her voice barely audible. She forced a nervous laugh. "Mom, you'll just use your card." Mother didn't answer. Instead, she reached into her designer purse with shaking hands and pulled out her premium credit card. She handed it to the waiter. He disappeared. Less than a minute later, he returned. "I'm terribly sorry, ma'am. The transaction was declined." The room became even quieter. Mother blinked in disbelief. "Try it again." The waiter nodded politely. A second attempt. Another decline. She hurriedly searched through her purse and produced another card. Then another. Then another. Every single one came back with the same response. Declined. Each rejection felt louder than the one before. Across the table, Chloe's confident smile had completely disappeared. She nervously pulled out her own wallet. "I'll pay." She slid her platinum card across the table. The waiter processed it. A few seconds later, "I'm sorry, ma'am. Your available credit is below the required amount." Chloe stared at him. "What? That can't be right." She opened her banking app, then everything finally made sense. The secondary credit guarantee gone, her available credit almost non-existent. For the first time in years, she was standing on her own financial record, and it wasn't enough. Her hands began shaking. Around the table, several relatives exchanged uncomfortable looks. No one mocked me now. No one laughed. Finally, Uncle Richard slowly reached into his jacket. Without saying a word, he handed over his card. "I'll cover dinner." His voice carried disappointment rather than anger. The waiter thanked him and quietly walked away. No one touched another bite of food. The expensive Wagyu steak sat untouched in the middle of the table. Ironically, the meal everyone had fought over had suddenly become the least important thing in the room. I looked at my mother one last time. "I hope it was worth it." Then I walked out. This time, no one tried to stop me. The cool Miami night air felt refreshing against my face. As I stepped outside the restaurant, I took a deep breath. For the first time in years, I felt light, not because I had embarrassed anyone, but because I had finally stopped carrying people who were determined to walk all over me. I climbed into my old hatchback. Before I even started the engines, my phone began vibrating. Mom calling, ignored. 5 seconds later, Chloe calling, ignored. Then the text messages started arriving one after another. "Chloe, Taylor, what is wrong with you? Mom is crying in front of everyone." "Uncle Richard had to pay the bill. Call me back." Another message arrived. "Mom, please answer. We need to fix this. The bank says the mortgage payment has been canceled. Please reactivate everything, I'm begging you." Then another, "I'm sorry." Then another, "Please don't do this to us." I quietly switched my phone to silent, set it on the passenger seat, started the engine, and drove home. For the first time in years, the silence felt peaceful. The following weeks changed everything. Without my financial support, reality arrived much faster than either Mother or Chloe expected. The mortgage company issued formal notices. Savings disappeared within weeks. Luxury quickly became impossible. After months of trying to hold everything together, Mother made the painful decision to sell the Miami villa. It sold for less than she had hoped. After paying off the remaining balance and moving expenses, very little was left. She rented a modest 2-bedroom apartment on the edge of the city. No ocean view, no private pool, no marble staircase, just a quiet place that she could actually afford. Meanwhile, Chloe's world unraveled just as quickly. The Mercedes was repossessed after she could no longer keep up with the lease payments. The designer shopping stopped. Weekend luxury trips disappeared. Coworkers who had admired her glamorous lifestyle slowly realized much of it had been an illusion. One by one, The people who had surrounded her for status quietly drifted away. She eventually traded expensive restaurants for packed commuter trains. For the first time in her adult life, she learned the difference between looking successful and actually earning success. During those same months, my own life changed in the opposite direction. Without paying thousands of dollars every month for people who neither appreciated nor respected me, my business expanded faster than ever. I hired a small international team, opened new digital partnerships, invested in emerging technology, built stronger systems. Instead of spending my income rescuing people from their own choices, I finally began investing in myself. 6 months after that unforgettable dinner, I stood inside the living room of my new home. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Pacific Ocean. Sunlight poured across hardwood floors. The space was quiet, warm, peaceful. Everything inside had been earned. Nothing had been borrowed. Nothing had been pretended. As I stood on the balcony watching the waves roll toward the shore, my phone rang again. "Mother," I answered this time. There was a long silence before she spoke. "I just wanted to hear your voice." She sounded older, softer. Life had humbled her. "I've been thinking every day about what happened." Another pause. "I spent years believing Chloe was the successful one. I judged you because you never showed off. I thought expensive things proved someone's worth." She began crying quietly. "I was wrong. I lost my house. I lost my pride. But the greatest loss was realizing how badly I failed my own daughter." I closed my eyes. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, I answered, "I didn't need your money, Mom. I only needed your respect." She cried harder. "I'm so sorry." Those words would have meant everything years earlier. Now they simply brought peace. Not because they erased the past. Nothing could. But because they showed that people can change if they are willing to face the consequences of their choices. Today, our relationship still exists. But it is different. There are boundaries now, healthy ones. I no longer rescue people who refuse to value me. I no longer confuse sacrifice with love. And I never again allow anyone to mistake kindness for weakness. Family should never require humiliation as the price of belonging. Respect should never depend on income. The people who truly love you will value your heart long before they notice your bank account. As I watched another sunset from my balcony, I smiled, not because I had taken revenge, but because I had finally reclaimed something far more valuable: my peace, my dignity, and my self-worth. Sometimes, the strongest revenge isn't making someone suffer. It's simply refusing to let them benefit from your kindness any longer. That night at El Hermitage didn't destroy my family. It revealed who they had been all along. And the moment I chose to walk away was the moment I finally walked toward the life I truly deserved.